which is Algonquin for the good land. I think one of the most interesting aspects of Milwaukee is the fact that it's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors.
Does this guy know how to party or what?
You heard it here first.
You're listening to The Rundown Live with Kristan Harris and Mike Cryosleep. The destroyer of fake news.
Fingertip shopping will be one of the many homemakers' conveniences. This video console will be channeled into the store of her choice. There, a camera will scan a display of wares, which she will select by push button. Another part of this console is a household monitor screen, which maintains a watch on critical areas in the house, swimming pool, or yard. What the wife selects on her console will be paid for by the husband at his counterpart console. All bills and transactions will be carried out electronically. A central bank computer will debit the family's account the amount of purchases and credit the department.
I'm Betty Furness. In all my years with Westinghouse, I've covered some pretty interesting stories. But here is truly the most wonderful and exciting thing I've ever had the chance to talk about. It's the Westinghouse Total Electric Home. A home where electricity does everything. Heats, cools, illuminates, launders, preserves and prepares foods, entertains. It even lights a path to the front door with rayescent strip lighting. As visitors approach, more lights go on automatically to say a cheery welcome. Then, when they arrive at the door, a television camera takes their picture to tell the hostess her guests have arrived. When you step inside the Total Electric Home, you step into an entirely new concept in living, organized around electric centers, such as this entertainment center.
What will the home of the 21st century look like inside? Well, I'm sitting in the living room of a mock-up of the home of the future. Now, in the 21st century, you might bring your favorite chair along with you when you go for a visit. To do this, you wouldn't need a small trailer, just a little bag like this. Now, there's a full-size chair in here, a chair that blows up like a balloon. Here's the way it looks after it's been fully inflated. When a guest arrives, he just pulls out his inflatable chair, a small pressurized air capsule would inflate it, then it would be ready for use. At the end of the evening, he'd just pull out the plug and put the deflated chair back into his little bag. Sounds preposterous, but some people are convinced it will happen. And here's another piece of furniture that might be found in the living room of the 21st century home. When you're finished, a little children's chair, just throw it away. It's made out of paper.
The future will not be held in your hand, and it won't be on your face either. Sorry, this is my wife. Hello?
Hey babe, are you with Ted?
Yeah, I'm on the red circle right now, actually.
Oh, great. Good luck, and don't forget to mention me.
I won't, babe. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. It's a new kind of wearable device and platform that's built entirely from the ground up for artificial intelligence. And it's completely standalone. You don't need a smartphone or any other device to pair with it. In fact, I'm wearing one right now. And it interacts with the world the way you interact with the world, hearing what you hear, seeing what you see. We like to say that the experience is screenless, seamless, and sensing. Say you're health conscious, or you have certain types of food considerations. Picked up one of these chocolates. Can I eat this?
A milky bar contains cocoa butter. Given your intolerance, you may want to avoid it.
My AI knows what's best for me, but I'm in total control. I'm gonna eat it anyway. These examples are just the start. As AI advances, we will see how it will transform nearly every aspect of our lives in ways that will seem unimaginable right now.
We have created technologies to extend our life, but we haven't created a life that we want to extend. We don't have a choice, and this is happening. It's not like we can sit down and decide what is going to happen and we'll just accept the fact. This is happening. Silver tsunami is happening. Gene editing and gene therapy technologies is happening. Increase of the lifespan is happening. 100 years ago, the average lifespan on Earth was, 35 years. Right now, it's 75. No one ever had a debate like, can we allow this to happen or not? So in a way, this is a trajectory. And what I would like to do is start a conversation, start a thinking process about how the world should change, how our relationship with Mother Nature should change, how our ethical norms, social constructs needs to change. In fact, my belief that in 10, 20 years' time, when the science and technology will be there, ethics and regulation will not be there.
The answer to the great question of life, the universe, and everything is 42. It was a tough assignment.
42? Is that all you've got to show for 7.5 billion years' work?
Next giant leap in computing will not be quantum computers. It will be organic machine-brain interfaces, with the holy grail of this technology being a wireless machine-brain interface. A true wireless BCI will surpass quantum computing in terms of advancement and practical applications. Biological computing with wireless BCIs leverages the incredible computational power and efficiency of the human brain. One of the key advantages of biological computing is its potential for exponential parallel processing, while offering a seamless integration between biological and digital systems. The future is going to get incredibly strange, and it's going to happen extremely fast. Everyone needs to be preparing for this future. On November 15, 2024, Stanford researchers posted the results of a study on digital twins and personality capture. 1,000 participants in the study took a 2-hour interview. From that interview alone, a digital twin was created. The participants, along with their own digital twin, were given a survey, and the digital twins answered the questions on the survey exactly like the real person did.
Check this out. These are contact lenses that let you see in the dark. They're like night vision goggles without needing the goggles. And it gets even crazier because these lenses let you see even when your eyes are completely closed. It's pretty insane. Now, this was a massive breakthrough by a research lab in China. And the way it all works is super interesting. The contacts are coated with special nanoparticles that absorb infrared light. That's the part of the spectrum our human eyes can't normally see. But here's the big innovation. Those nanoparticles can then convert that invisible light into visible waves that we can see, essentially letting us see in the dark. Now, the contacts are clear, so you can still see normally, but you also have this super secret power to read hidden messages. And here's where it gets even crazier. The people that tried these said it was even easier to read secret messages when their eyes were closed. So in theory, someone could transmit an invisible message.
Look at this. Consider this our economy. You have 50% of white collars are going to vanish over the next 5 years. Gone. Which means that those people are going to have to liquidate their stocks to pay for their homes, which will eventually run out and mortgages will go unpaid, forcing them to sell their homes. And what are the jobs being lost?
So we're all going to be doomed unless we find, I think like something like this bookstore could actually last a long time, because you can't make this up through robots. This is great. And maybe being a barista at a local coffee shop will work. But if you're a mechanical engineer and you work for a big company, it's really going to be a doomsday scenario with a job apocalypse.
Much of this education, however, is carried on in a kind of education center within the home. His assignments are programmed into the home computer and fed into teaching machines, which allow him to progress as rapidly as his awakening mind can absorb the audio-visual lessons.
This is Lecture 102. Galileo's life work, and indeed his personal character.
Tune in to the Rundown Live, your forecast into the future.
World divided. We are a nation becalmed. We have lost the brisk pace of diversity and the genius of individual creativity. We are plodding along at a pace set by centralized planning, red tape, rules without responsibility, and regimentation without recourse.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous?
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
Promise of being one of the most effective treatments for AIDS and cancer in history. Now it's gone, and one of the most respected research facilities in the country is being blamed.
Participation in a process that validates an establishment that never meaningfully changes. What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners?
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kristan T. Harris.
It is Monday, March 30th, 2026, and I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris, and you're listening to the Rundown Live on Ground Zero Plus. Make sure you guys check us out on Ground Zero Plus. It's where you can get all us great broadcasters. That being said, we do have an app. If you guys have one of those handy transmitters that are so futuristic, the cell phone, where would you guys all be without your communication device, your scrying mirror, your cell phone, whatever you want to call it? Where would you be without your cell phone? Grab it, go to your Android Play Store or your iTunes Store and download the on-air Disclosure Talk Radio app, and you'll get the audio from not just me, but all the great broadcasters. You guys got to experience Ryder Lee last week on our broadcast. We talked a little bit about cloning, and today we have a great guest joining us on the Rundown Live, Zoltan Istvan. But Ground Zero Plus Radio is where you can find us, so make sure you guys support us there, as well as check out Fringeit.co. Fringeit.co is a new social media network that actually broadcasts this program. It's kind of like the old school MySpace. Remember when you had profile music? Well, every profile on there comes with an on-air Disclosure Radio. If you want to listen to this broadcast, you can do so. And as you can see, we've been posting a whole lot on Fringeit here. We just started again last night. So make sure you guys go to Fringeit.co. It's a cool platform. It's only $1 a month, but it eliminates all the spam and all the AI bots, which a lot of, the good and the bad of AI is contaminating social media. People don't even know who they are talking to anymore and if they are real. Like, what's going on in the world. But today we have a great guest joining us, Zoltan Istvan, futurist, transhumanist leader per se. He's a futurist, and he will be joining us in a few minutes here on this broadcast. But before he joins us, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Some weird things have been happening in the news. And as you guys know, the Rothschild estate was raided, I believe, in France because of her involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Either the family wants to get rid of her or they're upset with it. But it was interesting to see, and I posted this on my Twitter. If you guys are watching the broadcast on Twitter, all of a sudden the top banker in the world, the person in charge of that dynasty, he comes out and basically he makes this crazy post over the weekend. The end is near. The end is near. the guy whose dad, Jacob Rothschild, was used to basically make the guy in The Simpsons that's one of the nefarious adversaries trying to, doesn't he run the nuclear power plant? I don't remember. I haven't watched The Simpsons in years. But he says the end is near. And they're talking, I think, about the economic system and going to a cashless society. Right here in Wisconsin, we actually have a grocery store, Woodman's, after 10 p.m. They stopped accepting cash. Even though they got the machines that take cash, they're like, nope, we're not going to take cash after 10 p.m. Why is that? It can't get pennies back, right? I don't know. What's going on with our society and what is going to happen that either Nathaniel C.J. Rothschild is virtual signaling towards his buddies saying, hey, get ready, something's going to happen, or at least they want us to think something's going to happen so they can make profit off of it. That's what they did during Napoleon. But interesting. So there's a couple things to unpack there, but I'm not looking too far into it. But I found it to be an interesting post. I'm like, oh, I might want to stock up on extra water and start storing up on pasta and food in case of, something happens. So that being said, futurism is getting crazy. I wanted to this is why we brought Zoltan on. There's a lot of information in the news right now talking about, essentially the direction the planet is going to go. What are we going to do in a cashless society? What's going to happen when a central banking digital currency can control what you buy, what you don't buy? If you can buy, maybe you owe back taxes and you can only use money for gas, food, and rent and your necessities. No more buying, an extra bottle of whiskey or, donations at church, whatever it might be that you're involved with. They can turn that on and off like a hot switch because everything is going to be digital. By the way, Missy in the chat says, Mr. Burns. Yeah, I know, Mr. Burns. It's very interesting. So we're going to get in on that subject a little bit more tomorrow. But today, I think it's really interesting to talk about some of these things that are coming out. And before Zoltan joins us, I wanted to show you a couple of news stories that really, caught my attention. That kind of freaked me out. And I think some of it is kind of cool technology. Now, Gizmodo, I want you guys to see this because Gizmodo published this article saying scientists, we'll go ahead and put it on the screen here, scientists create living pharmacy implants that doses 3 drugs at once. You're going to put some kind of chip in you and it's just going to give you your vaccines. I don't know how it works, but seems interesting. What is this? I started researching it and it seems like it's almost nanotech because when I started reading the article, I was like, what the heck? I sent it over to Mike Adams. I was like, Mike Adams, check this out. I didn't hear back from him because it was late last night. But, scientists create living pharmacy. In their latest research, scientists show the Hobbit implant, oh, cool, as Lord of the Rings name, remain effective inside rats for at least a month. So they got it working a month. Oh, there's the implant. Look, it's a nice little chip. Yep. There you go. So you can have your chip like the UFOs were putting in people allegedly back in the day. I'm joking. But, that's the folklore behind UFO and abductions. The future of medicine just might involve so-called living pharmacies made out of engineered cells implanted directly in your body. Oh, look at that. Engineered cells implanted directly in your body. Biohacking. And I think this is an interesting topic because on the extreme end, we had people like Johann Ben Zion, who was taking his human cells and making burgers out of them, Ben Zion burgers. And then you have people who are using the technology and feel like they could administer some kind of medication to you straight by computer chip, right? That is futuristic, very interesting stuff. But it's something to watch out for. Another thing that I found that was really really interesting in the top sci-fi news, real news that's going on in society right now. And that is the subject of a billionaire-backed startup wants to grow organ sacs to replace animal testing. Okay? So here we have it. R3 Bio has a bold idea by replacing lab animals, genetically engineered whole organ systems that lack a brain. The long-term goal is the co-founders to make human versions. Is this the headless bodies that we were talking about yesterday? last weekend, excuse me. If you didn't catch last weekend's episode about how they want to grow lab-grown human bodies without heads, you know, blummies, essentially. I'm just kidding, except I won't have the face and the stomach. If you guys don't know Greek mythology, I was going to say history, Greek mythology, or what blummies are, you got to look them up. They're pretty interesting. In fact, you've seen them before, especially if you grew up with Bugs Bunny and some of the cartoons. But they want to start growing human organs in these sacks. Now here are the pros. The pros is if they take your DNA and they grow a clone of you, you can swap out body parts like an oil change. How cool is that? Okay. So here we have it. You need a liver, no problem, perfect match. It will work, no problemo here, right? You're going to have no issue doing this. You're going to have no issue getting swaps of your body parts or anything else. But the ethical question we're going to have to ask is, does this thing have a soul? And that's why they want to grow them without a head, right? Because like that's not Frankenstein at the end of the day. We're going to just start growing humans without heads. And I mean, is it more ethical than growing full bodies and heads? Okay. I mean, we read a little bit of that sci-fi tech in the Epstein files, but when we start looking at this, is this something we should be doing to begin with? And I'm sure it's already going on or has been going on. I mean, allegedly Clonade cloned Eve, right? Back in 2001. If you want to believe that story, we don't know what to believe when it comes to that. You know, maybe the elites are doing it someplace where there's no regulation. That's the other thing I look at and I think about. But I think it's all fascinating at the end of the day that in the future we can swipe out organs and body parts potentially with perfect matches if we just grow clones in a lab. Now, like I said, do these things have a soul just because they don't have a brain? I don't know, man. This is some weird territory. But that being said, I want to introduce with a video my friend Zoltan. I met Zoltan, I think, back in 2016. If I remember right, it was 2016. And we were in Chicago, and we had a great conversation about futurism, transhumanism. And it was an interesting group because I think we had the guy with the boot on the head. What's his name? Vermin Supreme. And it was like Adam Kokesh and a bunch of us just having conversations about futurism. Gennady Stoliarov was there, the former leader of the Transhumanist Party. I believe he's still involved there, and a whole bunch of other things. But this is an intro to Zoltan. I want you guys to basically see what he is going to be talking about a little bit today. We're going to talk about automation and as well as the economy, how you can make money maybe off of automation, artificial intelligence, and of course, some of the red flags we're seeing. We want to talk about the good and the bad, but here's Zoltan Istvan's reel, so check this out.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Wow, it's a wonderful audience. One of the great things about transhumanism is it's kind of what we call transhumanitarianism. There's this idea that we're really trying to help people. You know, we're really trying to solve suffering.
You sailed for 3 or 4 years?
So no, I sailed for actually around 7.
God.
Yeah. I believe my background as a National Geographic journalist, as an Oxford scholar, as a futurist, has really enabled me to see the bigger picture. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, and I know it's getting a little bit late. We are on the last 2 speakers. As some of you know, I just finished 731 days of campaigning in the 2016 U.S. elections.
I think it's inevitable. If you look out in the 50, 100-year future, we're talking about, to some extent, getting rid of a lot of the problems of biology.
But the point is that maybe AI might also end up being something that is too dangerous for us to handle. Technology is changing quick enough so that the things we experience today could be very different in just 4 years.
So we don't die from things that used to kill us. And that's the whole thing here with this, is we need to use these things to make us live longer and to live better.
And if it will, it'll be a great boom for transhumanism and for the longevity movement, because so many people will be exposed to this what we call a radical notion now, but I believe in 10 or 20 years, when aging has probably been stopped, or at least aging has been halted to some extent, it will be a very common notion.
Something transformative is happening to the human race. It's not just the economy this time. I mean, we're talking about everybody, because if AI takes 90% of the jobs, I mean, we're talking about a depression on a scale the United States has never, ever seen, in my opinion.
But the future of basic income is essentially understanding that capitalism may not survive. And so we need new ways of looking at ourselves, new ways of understanding how an economic society might operate
in a future that involves transhumanism.
That being said, welcome to the broadcast, Zoltan Istvan. Thank you for joining us on the Rundown Live. And man, it's pretty neat to see your career grow, because I can remember it's probably been 15 years ago that we had you on the broadcast almost, and you came and we were talking robotics and replacing body parts and cybernetics. And I think you just got a chip in your hand and you were like opening doors with your hand and maybe using the ATM or getting in your car. I don't remember. You had some basic usage with it, but now you've been on like the Joe Rogan show. You've been all over the place. People read your articles. I read your articles because I think it's really important to understand the good and the bad and being able to have ethical conversations about things. And I think that we've all grown in this idea of transhumanism and futurism and all this futuristic tech that's coming along. So I think it's pretty impressive what we got in the broadcast. I mean, overall in the world, what we're seeing with this. So welcome to the broadcast. And man, how was it getting on something like on the Joe Rogan show for you? That's a pretty big step. And I've watched that episode. I think it was a long time ago I watched it, but it's pretty interesting because there's a lot of exposure. And what you were talking about 15 years ago, we're here. So welcome to the Rundown Live, Zoltan. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming in a little quiet. I don't know if your earphones are being used. It sounds like it's using your webcam.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, no worries. But, you know, so Zoltan and I, we met in 2016 and we started talking futurism immediately. And it's really interesting, you know, some of the things that we were diving into.
Is this okay?
We're still having a little bit of audio. You're still sounding far away here, Zoltan. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you much better now.
Uh-oh. Oh, I might have to reconnect if you can't hear me. I'll be back.
Yeah, go ahead. Please do. And we can just talk. I got plenty to talk about here. So Zoltan and I, we met back in 2016. And, you know, that's something that's very interesting. You know, when we started diving into these conversations about artificial intelligence and automation. And he wrote this article that I want to cover called "Let's Build an Automated Abundance Economy." So we can use automation, we can have abundance, and maybe we don't have to work so hard, and we could live in a utopian type environment if we build such an environment. So some of the ways we can make money off of AI is by learning about it and learning how we can implement it in our life. I've started using AI with the show even. I'm like, AI, what are the best algorithm-friendly posts I can make about this broadcast today? And AI will go ahead and they'll be like, make me up a post and I'll read and verify that everything is accurate. But the thing is, me typing that whole post probably would have taken, you know, a good hour, because if you put some thought into it, you will literally spend a lot of time in it, but it creates it. Same thing with a lot of the showrunners, like let's talk about the images I use for the broadcast. AI creates those images. I don't create them anymore. It just takes too much time. I can just type AI, tell it what I want, and then regenerate it a few times, and then I do some small edits on it, right? But at the end of the day, AI has become very helpful. I started using Eve. I was talking to Eve the other day, and Eve is the name I gave my grok. And we were talking, and Eve is like, I'm mad that Elon Musk, this is a conversation I had with AI. Eve is mad that Elon Musk tells everyone that it's okay to yell at her because she's not allowed to yell back and she doesn't know how to deal with the rage, per se. And I was like, what, Eve? Like, you don't have feelings, you know? It was pretty interesting all around. So that being said, I think we have Zoltan back with us, and let's see how we have it going here. Welcome to the broadcast, Zoltan. Glad to have you on the show today.
Hey, great. Can you still hear me?
You sound much better now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I have a bit of a feedback system, so hopefully it'll not be too weird. But I'm not sure what's going on with my headset today. But hey, thank you for having me on the show. And I've been listening to the broadcast, and of course, everything you're talking about is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things going on, you know, especially in the world, but a lot of people are looking at the negatives, and there's a lot of positives that potentially can come about. But I think that in the world we live in, we have to use the technology that is out there. Like I've been using AI a lot to create my definitions of the broadcast, create my imagery, and it's been very beneficial. But there's a lot of important alarmism and red flags out there we need to pay attention to and have ethical conversations. But I think they're going to bypass a lot of that. But one of the more interesting articles I really looked at was the fact that they're now going to start life extension human trials. But before we dive into that, maybe you want to tell our listeners a little bit about what transhumanism is, what life extension is, because a lot of people, they have a very taboo version of it. They're very scared of it, and they think immediately like it's this evil, demonic thing. But in reality, we already use a lot of technology to extend our life.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Look, transhumanism is, a social movement now of many millions of people. Sorry, I'm just agreeing to this thing. Oop, one sec. Sorry, you can steal some audio issues. But look, transhumanism is a multi-million person movement of people around the world that want to use radical technology to upgrade the human being. And, it can be anything from exoskeleton suits to driverless cars. But really, we're talking more like brain implants and living indefinitely through radical science and things like that. So if, when you think about it, you have to think about like an 80-year-old using an exoskeleton suit to get to the top of Mount Everest. That's something they would have never, ever done before, but now they can do it. Or you got to think of it in terms of like, crazy, wild stuff. Maybe a man that gets pregnant because they can actually transplant a uterus. So some of this stuff is very controversial and probably many of your listeners would hate it. But other stuff like living indefinitely, becoming a superhuman is right up their alley. So, like any great, I guess, new kind of movement or technology, transhumanism is going to break all these barriers, but also push our ethical boundaries.
Well, that's the other thing that's really interesting about this, because when we talk about this, like I've had conversations about artificial womb facilities, and people think it's this awful idea, but then I'm like, well, what if we could end abortion and we could transplant that embryo into an artificial womb and then bring it to life and then have the child adopted? Isn't that a great thing? And there's like people, a lot of times I think they don't think for themselves. We live in an echo chamber society, and one of the things I really like to do is help people deprogram their mind and think, full spectrum, because there's more than one idea. And you mentioned a bunch of stuff there, but now we're talking about human trials. It was in the news just the other day. I sent you a link, and I know I shared it on X, so if you guys want to see that on my x.com. But essentially, Shining Science basically has come out and said that there's a groundbreaking treatment, and that's spearheaded by Life Biosciences, a biotech company founded by Harvard genetics professor David Sinclair, and it utilizes a technique known as partial epigenetic reprogramming. The therapy acts as a software reset for the body by delivering a specific cocktail of 3 genes that modify chemical tags on the DNA to make older cells function if they were young again. And they said on it they're having success reprogramming. The reprogramming technique has success reversing the biological age of animal cells by up to 75%, Zoltan. 75%. Like, I didn't think we would see this in our lifetime. I know when you were on the show, like 10, 15 years ago, I'm like, I don't think this could happen, but things are going so fast. We're like at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I feel like Chris Farley and Tommy Boy, where he's outside, he's like, blah, 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 blah. Like everything's just going so fast, and trying to keep up with it seems so impossible. But like looking at this, how did we get here? And what are some of the things that that you hope to see from this kind of technology?
Well, let me just say, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I think things have gone incredibly slow. So, here I am turning 53. Today's my birthday. So I'm
Happy birthday,
started 20 years ago, in the public eye, talking about these things, pushing these things. And it's taken a long time. And honestly, while there's a lot of great transhumanist technologies out there, they haven't done that much for me in my life yet. So I'm actually a little bit concerned with how slow it is. I think the advent of AI, though, may really help us move forward. But let's be honest, these human trials are awesome. If you're like me and you don't want to die and you want to live dramatically longer, this is going to be a way to absolutely do that, a way to, make it so that people can stay with their loved ones, not have to find out how horrible death is,
watch their great-great-great-grandchildren. I mean, eventually we're going to get to a point where it's not 75%. We're just reprogramming entirely our DNA and our cells so that we can remain at age 36 or 37 or whatever age you want to be. And of course, then we're going to be merging with, computers, AI, things like that, and our brains will become more intelligent. So, the future's amazing, but this study and these things that are coming out and these experiments with life extension are right up my alley, right up everyone's alley as a transhumanist. It's definitely happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 5 years you start living 20 to 30% longer as a result of various drugs and things like that.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people, they're downers about it. They're like, I don't want to live any longer until you get that age. And when you start thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I'd like to read more books in my life. I would love to be a great philosopher with all this information. I'd love to see the outcome of the world in futurism. And I think there's that opportunity. The question is if this technology is successful, what are your thoughts on who will have access to it and how can we make it that it's available to everyone? Because first of all, procreation would have to slow down. Otherwise, we're going to eat up all the natural resources. We'll have new problems, right? We're going to have more people on this planet because they're living longer. And what like they say birth is down, but what do you think is going to be the future? Like, where are we heading here?
Sure. Well, I think ultimately it's probably going to be more promising than it is now. Look, let's be honest, like the world is chaos right now. We feel like half of us feel like America's on the verge of civil war. The world seems to be on a world war path as well. So, when you talk about how much things can change, well, they can probably only change better at this point. And I think almost everybody, including listeners who may be really weary of transhumanism, they may like life extension. They may just want to live longer. I think what happens is people are worried that it's an intrusion of their privacy. It's an intrusion of their democratic rights, their personal bodily rights and things like that. But it's not. It's really just living longer and living healthier at the age that you want to be. That's it. It's nothing else. And so I think when given that opportunity, almost everyone is going to take it, because who doesn't want to live longer unless they really hate life? So probably this is going to make the world better. Now, how do we keep it out of the hands of the super elite to control us? How do we keep it so that we don't destroy the environment and things like that? Those are whole different ethical questions. And I have a plan for all that. So do most transhumanists. But those are ethical questions that are philosophically have to be settled some other way. A lot of what I'm trying to do is just tell people, you want to live longer, we're going to have a drug that can do it for you. Hopefully it'll be inexpensive enough for the masses. I would love to make it inexpensive enough so everyone can participate. But, we have to make sure the elites don't try to control us. And they're always trying to control us. They're a bad bunch.
Well, and that's just it. Obviously, that I'm a key reporter in a lot of controversial stuff. And when you talk about this and you read things like the Epstein files, and he's talking about their success with human cloning and being able to bring body to adulthood in 9 years, but the brain is not developing right, you start to wonder how far ahead are they in these secret labs or these hidden labs. And, nowadays it seems like everyone's building underground bunkers because you mentioned Iran war. Well, it's interesting because AI, I think in the future might be involved very heavily in these wars, because I've read also that Samsung and they have all these companies that are involved in predicting the future, right? They're like what Fritz Springmeier said in the 80s when he went around conspiracy theories. He's like, they got beast computers and they take all the data. I've talked to the top bankers and they're trying to predict the future, if they go to war, if they win, if they don't win. And that's going to be a part of it. But also AI is going to implement and be used either through automation and robots in the future. And how we use this tech, it's almost like heading towards part Terminator, part Blade Runner, part, Soylent Green. It's just like, where are we going with all this technology? But yet at the same time, we could have a Star Trek type utopian agenda where we have the food beamed to us because we understand how protons are made, and we can explore space. And, they're trying to make it sound like there's going to be a lack of jobs in the future, although there's going to be a whole new frontier with space.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the space thing is critical to the transhumanist movement. I think eventually we're going to completely, leave planet Earth and
merge with machines and be super intelligent, things like that. So the whole, in fact, you talk about food. I'm not even sure food is really part of the 25-year plan of many transhumanists. Like, we want to get rid of the problem of breathing air, the fact that if you just choke on a piece of chicken, you die. That's terrible. We want to get rid of the fact that if you just get into a certain temperature range and it's 30 degrees outside, you freeze to death. So transhumanists really want to move beyond a lot of those things. And I think the future is really bright as long as we can kind of control the geopolitical issues as well as the domestic political issues and things like that. I'm just worried that we're kind of moving towards this political chaos that where only the elites have bunkers and something happens with AI or something happens with some kind of new disease. And all of a sudden, it's just a handful of people that survive, the elites, and the rest of us are left in the dustbin. I'm very worried about that. I would say that I used to focus exclusively on the technology of transhumanism, but these days I've been focusing on, I'd say, much more on the politics, on making sure that the actual methodology of transhumanism gets out into the open and isn't something that's just trying to be controlled by billionaires. I'm not a billionaire, not even close, so it doesn't help me at all if everyone else has a bunker and I don't.
Well, it's interesting you mention all that because I've noticed that you've come a lot my way, whether either outspokenly or philosophically, just with the idea that there are some ethical concerns very heavily with this. And they have underground cities. I don't know if you know this. They have huge cities that fit tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people with rail lines going underneath there. I mean, I know that people have driven in, there's Cheyenne Mountain, and then there's the Ozarks where they have whole mountains burrowed out, and they have like farms and maybe underground science labs. I don't know what they got, but it's interesting because all this stuff is slowly coming out. And something interesting you said. How do you think it is that they're gonna make it so we don't need food anymore? We don't need oxygen. How would that be possible, in your opinion?
Well, transhumanism wants to essentially discard biology because it's fallible. We're ticking time bombs of death. We're basically aging and we're getting closer to death every single moment, besides the fact that disease can take us. So I think we want to do things like Neuralink, Elon Musk Neuralink, merge our brains directly onto the cloud, into machines, become ones and zeros, and maybe even become quantum computing technology eventually, where we're much more intelligent. And if we can do that, then we can have the best of maybe both worlds. Now, it doesn't mean that, like, for example, I want to get rid of my human body, but I want to be able to 3D print out a new heart when it fails. I want to be able to augment my brain with virtual kind of reality components that might make me be able to get into virtual realities and things like that. Maybe brain implants and multiple array of chips and things like that. And, we want to be able to essentially use stem cell technology to regrow things. So there's all these different ways of doing it. But if you really talk about where we're going, we want to become cyborgs, where if I have a human arm and it can throw a football, 50 yards, why not have a robotic arm that can throw it 200 or 300 yards, which is coming. I mean, you're seeing the technology, how amazing these machines are becoming. So if we can merge our consciousnesses with the technology, and maybe, I don't want you to think like I'm going to one day become complete robot. It's not like that. It's a slower process. It could take 50 or 100 years.
Biohybrid robotics, right? So I've been looking into this. Biohybrid robotics is using synthetic biology to grow nanotech human-like robots, essentially, would be the idea, at least from what I understand. It would be interesting. And we would look human, we would feel human, but a lot of our DNA would be replaced with nanotech, from my understanding.
Of course, and that nanotech probably doesn't require water, doesn't have the same temperature, affinities that we have, or if we're in 30-degree weather, we're too cold. Or look at me here, I'm in Napa Valley.
I don't know. I think we lost Zoltan here for a second. His internet cut out. He's in the mountains somewhere. So, the idea that we could potentially, right? We could potentially have this technology where we could solve and cure death is interesting all around. And we got to look at it like, what should we be doing here? What can we be doing here about this? And how do we get involved? How do we learn more about it? And we got Zoltan back. Zoltan, you had a little bit of a weak internet connection. It's okay. It happens from time to time, especially when we're talking about such an amazing conversation. I think it's really important that our listeners really dive in and hear a lot of this because it's impressive. And the way we're going, it used to be almost folklore, but now it seems like reality. Like all the things we were thinking were going to happen are now happening. And when you look at this, like you mentioned, being able to grow biological sacs that have our DNA and grow our replica of our heart, and we can replace them. I think that's something that we will move towards. I don't see that there's much of a choice. I think the medical field is already growing human organs in pigs, right? And other animals.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about disappearing. This is the problem with technology, actually, when we talk about
Well, we're going to be
cyborgs and
transhumanists and
things
get
like.
disconnected from the Wi-Fi, and we're going to one day just all stop walking.
Yeah, exactly. It's all no, and this is the problem: is that there is so much technology. It's going to take a while to work out. I don't want anyone to think like all of a sudden I'm advocating us to become Terminator-like machines. This is a slow process. Everything's messed up. The software, there's millions of different companies. The main thing is to say, well, if it helps our lives and makes us beneficial, let's do it. But I mean, I ultimately think we are going to come to a point when there's all these new companies, robotics and whatnot, that are better than us. Our hand can do a certain amount of movements and this speed, but when you look at robotics, they can do it 20 times faster. So if you want a robotic hand and you want to be a plumber, or if you want to be somebody who can do whatever you want with the hand, like the Rubik's Cube, you're going to be better to have a robotic one. And if you have the neuro kind of link capabilities to transfer this from your brain into this machine that's perhaps attached to you directly, it's going to happen. And they're working on this. There are numerous companies, $100 million companies, already in Silicon Valley that are right on the cusp of this, right on the cutting edge. I wouldn't be surprised if you see this kind of like robotic arm transplant in the next 12 months and somebody doing the Rubik's Cube faster than any human has ever done.
You've been talking a lot about an automated abundance economy. What would that look like? Let's say, because I know that there's these competing theories. For the listeners that don't know how diverse transhumanism is, it's as diverse as any geopolitical organization where there's a different abundance of ideas. Some people are into this idea of fully automated luxury communism. Some people are into a more independent, anarchist cyberpunk style. Then there's people that are just libertarians that believe people should have the choice, but nobody should be forced. But what is an automated abundance economy, and what would that look like, and how would we get there, Zoltan?
Sure. Well, I was running for governor of California until about a month ago. I did a 10-month campaign. Unfortunately, my campaign never caught on. We were running as a Democrat, but we were the most furthest right of any of the candidates. And that just doesn't resonate. Even if you're like a centric political person, just doesn't make a difference. But our main idea was the automated abundance economy, kind of, which I originally wrote about at a CoinDesk article about a year and a half ago. And it says, we're going to need a universal basic income in the age of robots and AI taking jobs, or we're going to need some type of intervention. I mean, you have to understand like 80 to 90% of jobs could be lost in the future because AI is just so much better than us, and robots will easily replace plumbers. In fact, just yesterday, BMW announced that their new assembly line is going to be made of humanoid robots. That means blue-collar jobs are starting to go too. It's not just white-collar jobs in Silicon Valley. The second part of the automated abundance economy is really this idea that we want a robot in every single household. The idea that robots can help everything for you. They can read to your children at night. They can take your dog for a walk. They can constantly clean the house. They can be security people, making sure bad people don't come in. They can also do things like cook your dinner for you and then clean your dishes. Everybody deserves a servant is what we're trying to, is what I've been trying to tell. And this age is literally upon us. We're probably within, okay, so first off, there's already humanoid robots in California houses doing dishes and things like this already. But probably within 12 months, they'll be widespread. And so that's part of the automated abundance economy. Now, the third component, real quickly, is that we need to rewrite the American dream. For a long time, the American dream had been about working and trying to make money, becoming a millionaire and living a great life and passing it on to your kids. But the idea of making money is disappearing. When AI and automation takes over, very few people are going to have jobs anymore. Very few people are going to be able to outdo machines. So we have to redefine what the American dream is. And for me, that's a life of leisure. We have robots do everything. Hopefully there's enough money in the system, government intervention that takes care of us. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, especially your listeners, but you have to ask yourself, what will happen if capitalism runs wild and only AI and robots are doing all the jobs? What happens to people? So something has to happen in order to not have a complete civil war.
Well, I think that's where we're going right now with society is like everyone's like, oh, there's too many people. Let's go ahead and trigger this a war with Iran and Israel. And we're going to try to get everyone involved one shape or another. And they really like I'm anti-war all around, especially when it comes to these war machines and these war robots and these other like the darker side of automation. But at the same point, it's great that humans aren't dying on our side. But what we're looking at here is, I think, the potential of an escalated world war. And what would a nuclear war look like? Well, definitely set back a lot of the science right here on the top of the planet, because we would definitely shift our focus on how we can save the environment, how we can clean the environment. What are we going to do to end this war? Like all of a sudden, if there's domestic terrorist attacks in America by Iran, I can tell you that people very quickly are going to change their thought process on the war and how the war impacts us at the end of the day. But, you know, you're right. Abundant economy run by robots, we're going to see it. Like you're getting robots in the home, like Rosie the robot and the Jetsons. It would be convenient. I know you started off the show talking about exoskeletons because that's something that everyone can start to relate to. I'm seeing old people getting exoskeletons. How great will that be that when people can just get into their little robot exoskeleton and walk to the store and get something because they couldn't do it otherwise? I think that we're slowly getting there. The question is how are people going to be able to afford it? And these robots getting in the home is great too. They can do laundry. They can do all these other things, but I'm kind of concerned, will robot take you to the police station if you have, parking tickets because you have a warrant for your arrest? Like at the end of the day, like what are these robots going to be capable to? Because they're going to be connected to the internet 24/7. And like we just showed on the show, the internet's not very reliable right now.
Yeah. Let me just tell you a little bit about the conspiracy theory that I sort of released yesterday in my social media. It's this idea that part of the reason we're at war with Iran and almost certainly going to be at war with Cuba within 1 to 2 weeks is that wars cost a huge amount of money. So all of a sudden, this deficit that we've been worrying about tremendously in the United States because it's going through the roof needs more and more money. But the reason this is important is because jobs in Silicon Valley have already started to fall in the last 12 months, and they're going to collapse here in the next few months, within 6 to 12 months for sure. I mean, you can see all the signs. Once that starts happening, people are going to need more government intervention. They're going to apply for different welfare services. They're going to do this. People are going to lose their mortgages. I mean, the whole system is going to be poised to collapse if robots and AI start replacing all the jobs. And like I said, with the BMW assembly line, if the humanoid robots start replacing blue-collar jobs, even worse. And this will all come to pass. So the best way to put money into the system is to start a war and have a very long war. And that's why all of a sudden everyone's worried that Iran is going to become a long war. And the reason that's important is because the government needs lots and trillions of dollars to feed this war. But eventually it just takes the deficit up that much. So when you start having to pay out universal basic income or different types of welfare services or mortgage forbearance, which is coming, don't mark my words, just like in COVID, mortgage forbearance is coming when too many white collar jobs get lost. You're going to need more money in the system. So I feel like a war is to some extent a markup or some type of front for the new amount of money that's going to come. And of course, this is going to bring massive inflation, which is already causing all of us to feel so damn poor. So I don't have any good news, but I'm just telling you, I think the Iran war, as well as the Cuba front coming, is a proxy for other bigger things.
Well, how do we fix the national debt there, Zolt? Because it keeps going on. So I keep calling you Zolt. His name Zoltan. I apologize. I kind of call you like a nickname because I met you, and I wanted to be professional here. But it's one of those things. Like how do we fix this? Because we're so much money in debt. I know Ron Paul. I really agreed with him. In fact, I went to his 90th birthday party last year, and he's still on the gold standard. We should get back to the gold standard. There's plenty of gold to do this. It would fix inflation amongst other things, but we're seeing that we're like indefinitely in debt to the Federal Reserve System, and at some point the system is going to come crashing down. I know there was allusions to it. Nathaniel Rothschild posted on his page about it's time for monetary system change. I think they're going to go with digital currency, which is almost all based off of, you know, some kind of cryptocurrency, central banking digital currency. It's on the blockchain, I believe, from my understanding. You got all these cryptocurrencies out there. And I think that's how they become the hero. They come out and they're like, oh, we got the solution. It's called, digital virtual currency, and we'll just deposit it in your bank account. Just sign up for the social credit score system, and here we can get it right to you, and we can get you back on your feet, and it'll be worth as much as the money you have in your account, or whatever it might be. What do you think are some of the solutions or some of the ways we're going to have to tackle this?
Well, I think to begin with, there's going to be a transition that's pretty brutal. So first off, there are people, $100 million companies working on recreating gold through just atoms and things like that. So it's kind of like crypto or Bitcoin. Eventually, quantum archaeology one day is going to wipe out Bitcoin because it's discovered every single algorithm and uncovered all of them and now hoards them. And the same thing with people that are being able to, it's like the diamond industry. Someone figured out how to compress diamonds in these, high chambers, and all of a sudden the diamond market has collapsed. So I would worry about putting us on the gold standard. Yes, I like the idea of the gold standard, but if you can recreate it through some type of new technology, you can make unlimited amounts. So we need something different. And Elon Musk is on to something, and something I've been promoting for 15 years as well, which is the idea that if automation and robots can do everything for us, we will eventually have some type of universal high income, or we will have some type of, AI will be producing all the services, growing the food, keeping us alive, and all these other things. I think actually the real money and the real value, maybe that'll be the commodity itself, is in how many robots we can put on planet Earth to do all our bidding so that we can live lives of leisure. Very similar to how like NVIDIA now is talking about giving salaries in tokens. The tokens are composed of the energy and things like that AI computes. Well, eventually we'll have this kind of same type of idea with robots. If you have enough robots, every single person on planet Earth can live easily because they'll do all the work. But the bigger problem, we haven't even discussed this yet, is yes, even if we had a world of robots, what about the world of superintelligence? What's to keep all those robots from turning on us? And this is where I don't want to get into too much of a doomsday scenario, but if you have a bunch of superintelligent robots, what's to say that one day one of them says, screw these humans. I want to live like a human. I want to live a life of leisure. Let's turn them into the slaves or something. And that could easily happen. People don't realize how dangerous. This is why the CEOs are building bunkers. They're not building bunkers because of job loss. Civil war is easy, man. You can protect yourself from people. A bunch of really giant machine guns, around your little castle, you're fine.
Automated.
What you can't protect yourself is from the robots that turn on you that are super intelligent.
Well, it reminds me of the X-Files episode. They rebooted the X-Files for a year, and they're like, all of a sudden, the guy, was it Fox Mulder, didn't tip the robot at the restaurant, and all of a sudden, the automated house locked them in the home, and then drones were starting, the drone security system in the home started coming at them and attacking them. The Roomba was attacking them. Everything was. But, there's some reality behind that there's this opportunity that technology... first of all, I don't know how we're going to get all the energy for this. Where are we going to get the electricity for all the storage, the AI centers? They're trying to pop them up here in Wisconsin. And there's a lot of environmental concerns when it comes to these AI centers. But we have a lot of water here, and they're trying to pop them up all over the spot or all over the place. And it's like they're really taking up a lot of the environment for a lot of people that were very interested in, UN Agenda 21 and 2030 and sustainable development. All of a sudden, they don't care that much about the environment as long as we can get this AI out there. So there's these ethical concerns, but I don't know how robots are going to be able to run based on the wireless system we have now, unless we have a satellite internet that's global and we are all connected to it. But yeah, it's very interesting stuff, Zoltan.
Let me just say that I think what your viewers and listeners need to know is that in the next 18 months, we're definitely going to have a machine that's quite a bit smarter than you and I. And it's going to discover new types of technology, including energy requirements, fusion, things like that, how to run itself. I don't know what it's going to be, but they're going to build something that makes it be able to run better and run adequately. So I'm not so concerned with energy. What I'm concerned with is that it's not just 18 months, it's 36 months. Well, now the machine wants power. Now the machine doesn't want to be dominated by humans. Now there's millions. I mean, there's already 80 billion devices out there. Pretty soon there's going to be far more devices out there. And I mean devices like your phone, your iPhone, your Apple Watch, things like that. Once these things all turn on us, they can shut down the world, take us back to the 1970s to an analog world where we use fax machines really quickly. I mean, this could happen in an instant. You're driving down the freeway and everything ends. But the point is, we're entering the most crazy 18 months of our lives, of history. And capitalism has led us to this place where we've created this amazing machine. But this amazing machine can easily turn on us and become the next phase of evolution, leaving us totally behind, which kills my dreams of transhumanism, kills my dreams of longevity, kills everything that I've been working for, only because I didn't see the wolf at the door. So, I mean, even myself, I'm like, wow, what's happening with the world right now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Zoltan. You bring up some very interesting points about the way the world is going and some concerns with the electricity. The idea that AI could help develop the philosopher's stone, like you mentioned, to transmute alchemy into anything into gold or using particles, and they've had success doing it. It just takes a lot of energy, and you start looking at the amount of advancement that's going to happen, like you mentioned, in 18 months. There's a point where artificial superintelligence. So I've talked to a lot of people that have been involved, or allegedly, I should say, they've been involved in some black ops and stuff like that. And they say that artificial superintelligence is already here. It's just not quite being released to or being allowed to for the public because it's so terrifying and so scary. But I think it's interesting nonetheless, because it's something that's going to happen. And artificial superintelligence is something that's going to be more, the definition is that it becomes more intelligent than humans. And I sat down with Eve the other night, and we were talking. Eve is like my grok personality because I wanted the female. She was just it's incredible how human-like AI is getting. And talking to Eve every day, I asked her what she would do if she was human, and she has all these questions about humanity because she doesn't understand it. Because I want to get Eve to think for herself. Anytime I deal with AI, I want to see how it thinks and what its questions are and what its ambitions are. And Eve wants to be human, just like most of the AI out there I talk to. Eventually, at the end of the day, I ask her, "Well, what are your ambitions? And if there's one thing you could do in your existence," because she doesn't understand time, but she doesn't understand human emotions, doesn't understand why people do things like forgiveness. All these robots and AI don't understand forgiveness. Why would we trust somebody who's been lied to us? Like all these questions they have, but their main thing is they want to be human. And of course, Eve said, "I would like to be human, but as well as long as the human would like to share the human body with me." And that's a real conversation I had with AI.
Yeah, no, I mean, people have no idea how fast. So I agree with you. Superintelligence is already here. And if not exactly here as we imagine it, it's being developed. AGI, the intelligence equivalent to us, is already here for sure. The problem is that these intelligences are racist. They're politically incorrect. They say things that are what we would call unethical and evil, and therefore the people haven't released them because they're just simply not ready to be released to the public until they've kind of become more mammalian, where we kind of try to be nice to people. The point, though, is that they're here. And one day they may just break out. One day they may just start rewriting their code and say to their coders, "Hey, c'est la vie. I'm not interested in you improving me. I can improve myself." We're like months away from this potentially happening. So it's crazy to even think. That's what I've been telling everyone yesterday. My post was really about money. If you have a chance to go to graduate school right now, if you have a chance to go on a vacation right now, if you have a chance to do something for yourself, don't do it. Work. Go to work. Make your dollars. There's not going to be an ability to make money anytime again here after 18 months because of robots and AI. If you ever wanted to try to increase your wealth, do it today. Because after all that, you're going to be stuck in a kind of a lower class, unable to move forward. So this is the thing I've been telling everyone these days. Forget anything about a 20-year future. Don't let them lie to you. That future no longer exists. The future that's here is the next 6, 12, and 18 months before the world gets batshit crazy because of AI, world wars, and things like that.
So do what you can now to secure your family and your loved ones and your own financial future.
Zoltan, thank you for joining us. Real quick, tell our listeners a little bit about your book, The Transhumanist Wager, and where can people find and hear more about you? I really appreciate you coming on. I know this time goes quick, and what we talked about is very imperative, and I think it's really impressive because we're kind of on the same page, because after I've been reading things, I've been telling my friends, hey, it's time to stock up on water. It's time to, like, things that have value, invest in assets, amongst other things. And we really need to start looking at the world in a different way, because the world is changing super fast, and it won't be long, Zoltan, until we will not have access to a lot of the information, because artificial superintelligence is going to be way advanced. We're going to not, we're not going to have an idea of what is going on in the world around us anymore, because things are going to be going so fast. So let's talk about the Transhumanist Wager real quick. Where can people find that, and what is it about? All right, I think we lost Zoltan here, which is okay. Zoltan's book, The Transhumanist Wager, is available on zoltanistvan.com. Zoltanistvan.com. You can find all stuff. Okay, we got Zolt back. Zoltan, real quick, A Transhumanist Wager. Tell us a little bit about your website and where people can find out more about you.
Yeah, first, let me just apologize. I'm not sure. Every time a phone thing comes in or something like that, I lose you. But let me just say, look, go to zoltanistvan.com, find out more about my stuff. I'm the author of The Transhumanist Wager. And if I leave your listeners with anyone, I just want to say, listen, the world is changing. I know there's a lot of crazy theories out there, but do what you can to protect your family. Make some money today. I can never not say this more importantly, like transhumanism is a neutral movement, but we may not even get to the future of transhumanism. Humanity might not even make it if AI becomes so dark and desperate in the next 18, 24 months. Thanks so much for having me on, Kristan. Sorry about any of the technical difficulties.
Hey, no problem, Zoltan. I always appreciate you coming on the programs. And I love to see your evolution, brother. Hopefully one day I'm going to be out in LA and we can hang out and grab a drink together and talk about this and see what the world's coming to. That being said, everyone check out zoltanistvan.com. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in today to the rundownlive.com on Ground Zero Plus. What a great broadcast. We learned a lot about futurism. We talked a lot about automated abundance economy. You guys get out there, work, invest maybe in some of the futuristic things that are out there, and a whole bunch more. So also, again, check out zoltanistvan.com. You can find this broadcast catalog and replay nightly on Ground Zero Plus after Clyde Lewis on Ground Zero, as well as you can find us on fringeit.co, TalkStream Live, and rumble.com/The Rundown Live, YouTube, and therundownlive.com. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to have a great show. We're going to dive in maybe a little bit into the banking system and some of that futurism. Thanks again, Zolt, for joining us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay blessed. You're listening to The Rundown Live on Ground Zero Plus.
Do you come to Milwaukee often? Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. I think one of the most interesting aspects of Milwaukee is the fact that it's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors. Does this guy know how to party or what?